Hi guys, welcome to today's video. In today's video, we are going to be looking into another really cool Figma update that was made to the auto layout, which is this wrap property here. In order to show you guys what this wrap feature does, if you notice the frame that we have on our design board, the cards that we have, this list of service providers here are stacked on each other, giving it one card per row. But if I select this frame and I increase the size of this frame, you're going to notice that as the size of the frame increases, the way the cards are displayed have changed. We now have 2 cards per row, and this is basically what the wrap property does. If I keep increasing the size of this particular frame, you will notice that once it is large enough to fit in all 4 cards, we are going to have all 4 cards on a single row. But this particular feature was also shipped together with something else, or it works better with another feature, which is the minimum width and maximum width feature. So if I still click on this frame and I reduce the size of this frame, you're going to notice something, that this particular frame doesn't go below a particular size. This was particularly set by me. This is what the minimum width typically does. So if I keep increasing it, it increases, but once I reduce it, you're going to see this red line that is showing the boundary, or that is showing the minimum width that this frame can be reduced with. So as you can notice, we can increase the size of this frame to be as large as possible, and that's not what we want. So typically, if you want to add a maximum width to this, you're going to go to this frame section and click on this drop down. You see you have the ability to add the minimum width and the maximum width. The minimum width we added was not on this parent frame. As you can see, there's also another child frame inside of this parent frame, and this is where I added the minimum width to it. Here you can see we have a minimum width of 744, which is this red lines here. I can go ahead to add a maximum width. The maximum width I would like to add will be a size of 1728, which is more like the maximum desktop frame that Figma provided with the MacBook 16 size. If I click on enter, you're going to see that it has reduced the size of this frame based on the maximum width we provided. So this particular wrap property works best with the minimum and maximum width. So if I reduce this, you can see that it doesn't go beyond this particular size, it doesn't go below this particular size, and if I increase this, it doesn't go beyond this maximum width. So in today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys typically how to create this entire auto layout frame that is responsive. I've seen a lot of people ask about how to create something that looks as responsive as this, but it is also really important that you have the basic knowledge of auto layouts. And if you don't, do not worry, as I'm going to be walking you guys through step by step on how to understand a little bit of auto layouts to be able to create flexible or responsive frames like this. And if you're already familiar with how to use auto layouts, you can skip the video up to the part where we work with the wrap feature and the minimum and maximum width feature. I'm going to put a link to the timestamp to the wrap feature, so you won't spend time going through Figma's auto layout again, but it won't hurt to have a refresher. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so that you get notified whenever I post a new video. So without further ado, let's get right into the video. So for a start, what we're going to do is we're going to create a duplicate of this frame, just so that we have a guide, or so that we can always have a reference as we are designing along. I'm going to keep this particular design on our artboard or on our canvas, and I'm going to hold option and I'm going to drag out to create a duplicate. For this particular duplicate, I'm going to detach every single frame that we have so that we can start designing from scratch. So the first thing I'm going to do is hit Command Shift G, or on PC I'm going to believe it's Command Control G to detach the parent frame. I'm still going to go down one layer, hit Shift Command G to detach this particular frame, and I'm going to keep doing this to detach every single frame so that we can start working from scratch, so that you can see how I got all of these sections one after the other. So I'm going to detach every single frame. As you can see, these frames are all auto layout frames, and with this you can notice we have all our individual elements just hanging around randomly on this particular Figma file. So what we are trying to achieve is a responsive auto layout frame that looks like this. So in order to do that, we are going to take this one at a time. We have this first section at the top here. As you can see, this discounted price section, which is the text you're seeing here. First, I'm going to hit Shift A on it. It's going to give us this auto layout wrapper around it, and I'm going to give it the size that we are going to be working with at first, which is going to be, if you click on this particular frame here, it's going to be 744. And note, I'm going to be dropping the link to this Figma file on the description section so that you can be able to download this and start working along. So guys, let's keep going. I've hit Shift A on this discount section. What I want to do is to give it its proper width, and for the width I'm going to set it to fixed for now so that I can change the value of this width. And what I want to do is to give it a value of 744, as you can see, and I'm going to come to this positioning section and I'm going to position the auto layout to align center. I'm then just going to drag this to the middle of all our contents a little bit, and then the next thing I want to do is to fill up this particular frame with a blue color. So we have this particular frame ready. The next thing I want to do is for this particular frame, okay, we'll come back to that. I'm just going to leave it this way. Now the next thing we're going to deal with is this navigation bar at the top, this second layer. So the first thing we're going to do now is to group these particular elements. I use auto layouts to group them together. So I'm going to select the login button and I'm going to select this particular text and hit Shift A on them. So this is now an auto layout frame. I'm then going to click this entire frame that we created and select our logo item. This could be anything depending on what your logo is. In my case, is this freelancer text. I'm going to hit Shift A on them, and we've created an auto layout navigation bar. I'm going to fill this auto layout with white, and you can see we need to add some padding around it. I'm going to come to this padding section, hit Command down, and give it a padding of 20 pixels around it. I think I'm going to reduce the top and bottom to like 10 pixels, and I think this is okay for now. So I'm still going to come to this section, change it to fixed, and give it a fixed width of 744, just so that it's the same height with this particular discount section that we created earlier. For this discount section, I'm also going to reduce the top and bottom margin to 6 pixels so that it has a slimmer height. So after this, you can see that our padding here is more than what we have here. We have more space here, so we are going to neutralize this particular nav bar. So from here, what we want to do is also frame all our cards together. So I'm going to select all these cards, and in case you're wondering how to create an auto layout card like this, I'm just going to delete the first 3 cards, and we're going to detach this particular card so you can see the anatomy. If I hit Shift Command G on this card to remove the auto layout frame, you're going to see that it's just a basic card, and here is just an auto layout of all of these items. If I hit Shift Command G on it, you're going to see this is just different frame that carries all of these items. I'm going to select every single one of them back, hit Shift A, select the image, and hit Shift A on it also. And now we have this. I'm going to fill this section. You're going to see now we need to add some padding to it. I'm going to come to the padding section, hold down Command and click, and add a 20 pixel padding to all sides. I'm going to increase the size of this, but to get the proper size, I'm going to click here, and you can see here we have 664 as the minimum width of this card. So I'm going to click on this card and give it a fixed value of 664. And now we have a card looking like this. I can go ahead to create multiple copies of this, select every single one of them. I can give them a little border radius of, let's say, 12 pixel. Select every single one of them and hit Shift A to create this auto layout list of cards. Now that we have this, the next thing we want to work on is to join all these three layers together. So I'm going to select all three layers like this, all three auto layout frame that we just created, and hit Shift A on them to create an auto layout on them. I'm going to change the spacing to 0 because I don't want any spacing between them, and I'm going to fill this particular auto layout frame that we just created. Now we have something that looks like this, but our goal is to achieve something that looks like this. So let's bring it closer so that we can see what exactly is the difference between these two sections. Now, as you can see, if we click on this particular section here, you can see the background color is kind of different from this card color. So what we are going to do is to have a padding around this, just like the way we can see this section. There's a padding around it of 40 pixels. There's a padding left and right of the same 40 pixels. So I'm going to click on this section and click on this padding section here, hold down Command and click and give it a padding all round of 40 pixels. So this is coming out cool. I'm also going to change the color of this section that holds the list of cards. I'm going to click on this color palette and pick this color, this background color for the list of cards here. Now we have something that looks like this, and this seems to be coming out really nice. I'm going to click on the entire frame and increase the frame size to just be exactly like what we have initially. And this is looking more like this, but we are not there yet. If I try to increase the frame size of this, you can see that this is not responsive at all, which is not what we want. So let's keep going. So what we want to do is to start making each of these sections individually responsive. We are going to start from the very first one, which is this discount section. What I'm going to do for this discount section is to make it very responsive. So the first thing I'm going to do is to click on this spacing section here and give it a property of auto, because I don't want it to have any space. I want the content to automatically flex to the middle. So this is not enough to make it responsive. If you see, if I increase this size, it's still not responsive. But what we are going to do to make it responsive is we'll come to this section where we have this sizing. I'm going to click on this drop down, and here we want it to fill container. Basically what we are saying is no matter the size of the container that this discount is, we want it to fill its container. So I'm going to click on that fill container, click on the parent frame, and once I increase this, you can see that because it's fill container, it tends to fill this container as we increase and reduce the size. So we're done with the first section. We're going to come to the second section, which is this navigation bar. Let's try to do exactly what we did for this first section for this second section. I'm going to come to this spacing section here. I'm going to make it auto basically flex the items in that particular frame to be spread out evenly. That means the first item will start from the beginning and the last item will go to the end. So basically auto is not enough. We're also going to come to this section where we have fixed. We don't want it to be fixed. We want it to fill the container in which it is contained. So I'm going to click on fill container. Now let's check the responsiveness of both frames. Cool. We can see that both frames are responsive as we increase the size of this particular frame. Now we want to deal with the main body section where we have this list of cards. So we are going to do something similar to this list of cards section. I'm going to come to this here and I'm going to click on fill container. So with fill container, if I click on the parent frame and I'll try to increase this, you can see that this background here is filling up as we increase the size of this particular frame, but these cards are not filling up, they are stagnant. So what can we do to fix that? We are going to give it the same property that we've been giving other sections. I'm going to select each card individually, come to this section and make it fill container. Now we click on our parent frame and we can increase. You can see that these particular cards are now increasing in flexibility as soon as we keep dragging. But we are almost there. We are almost there. The behavior we are looking at is, if I just move this a little further and I come to this section and click and we increase the frame size, the behavior we are looking at is once the size of this desktop or once the size of this frame is enough to contain 2 cards in a row, let it become flexible, which is typically the wrap property. So I'm going to take this back and I'm going to bring this closer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on these buttons, this body section here that have this, that contains this list of cards that we created, and I'm going to click on this wrap property. So in order to try and achieve the behavior we just saw with this particular section, I'm going to click on this section that contains this list of cards and I'm going to click on this wrap button. And as you can see, this is not how we want this particular list of cards to behave. So what can we do to fix this? I'm going to press Command Z or Control Z on your computer to just undo. And to fix this is really simple. This is where the minimum width and maximum width comes in. So as you can see, if you click on this button again and click on the wrap section, you can see that one of the biggest problem is that this particular card is becoming smaller than we would want. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to select all this card and we want to add a minimum width value to it. We want to typically tell the system that we don't want this particular card to go smaller than this particular size. So I'm going to select this. I'm going to reduce the size to the minimum width and I'm going to click on each card and see we have 666 as the minimum width. I'm going to select an individual card and I'm going to come to this section and we can see that the minimum width is 544. So we are going to select all our cards here also and we are going to give it a minimum width. So I'm going to click on this width section and add minimum width and it's going to be a value of 544. Now once we have this minimum width, let's go ahead and try out the wrap property. I'm going to click on this wrap property and as you can see, nothing happens. But let's go ahead and increase the frame size of this section to see if it's going to change as soon as the size of the frame increases. So once the size of the frame increases, we can now see that we achieve a property that looks like what we want. Now having our cards displaying on a single row, all 3 cards that were stacked before in this particular reduced size have now been displayed all on a single row, which is super cool. So guys, this is how you can achieve or you can work with minimum width with your wrap property. But I still think there's still a number of things we can fix. Like if I keep reducing the size of this particular frame, you can see that it's not looking very nice. So what we want to do is to make it look like this, that at a particular minimum width, we don't want this particular frame to do any other thing. So what we are going to do to achieve this is we are going to set a minimum width on our frame, right? So in order to achieve that, first we are going to identify the minimum width we want to work with, and for our initial design is 744. So which particular frame are we actually giving this minimum width of 744? If I click on our existing design and I click on its child frame, you're going to notice that the child frame is what contains that particular minimum width of 744. But if you look at the one you're working with, this particular frame here, we don't have that particular child frame. So what we're going to do is we're going to create it. So I'm going to hit Shift A on the entire thing that we have so that we create a parent frame. And for this parent frame, I'm going to remove all the paddings around it. So what we have now is this parent frame that has our child frame in it. So what we want to add that minimum width to is this particular child frame. So I'm going to add a minimum width to it with a value of 744. So once we do that, I'm going to click on this parent frame back. I'm going to try and increase this, but of course nothing happens. And this is because for our child frame, we also need to add that value of fill container. Now it fills our parent frame. So as you can see now, when we click on our designs and we reduce this, it doesn't go beyond that particular value of 744, which is exactly what we want. So typically we've almost completed this particular design, but just like the way we added at the end of the video, at the beginning of the video, a maximum width for this, it will also be cool to add a maximum width to the design we just created. So I'm going to click on this child frame again, come here, add the maximum width. The maximum width is going to be 1728 for the maximum desktop size we want. And once we click on our frame, we can see we can increase to the maximum width and reduce to the minimum width. So guys, I think we've come to the end of this particular video. I would just want to add the final touch to it and make this properly aligned. As you can see on our body frame here, we are using a margin of 40. So I'm going to click on this particular navigation bar and give it a left and right margin of 40 so that both the contents and the card align properly. So guys, this is it. This is how you can create a responsive card section just like this, using the minimum and maximum width alongside with the wrap property. I know this might not be a full-fledged website page, but it's going to give you the basics of working with the wrap property, the minimum and the maximum width, and also improve your knowledge on auto layout. Thanks for watching guys, and I hope you have learned something. Do not forget to like, subscribe and turn on the notification bell so that I'm going to see you in my next video. Bye for now.